Hello everybody. Do you remember last week when Mr. Keith and I were talking about the resurrection eggs? And we had a look inside all of these eggs and we talked about all the different things that were about Easter. And we talked about how Jesus came alive again. Well, this week we're going to talk about one of Jesus' friends called Peter, and what happened as part of the story with Peter. One evening in Jerusalem, Jesus and his disciples were at the Passover feast. Now that was before Jesus died. And Jesus told them that he soon would be killed. Now when we talked about the eggs, when we talked about the Passover feast, we saw the little cup. I'll just put that back in the egg so we don't lose it. So the disciples had some wine and some bread, like when we have communion. And Jesus told Peter that, Peter told Jesus that he would protect him and never leave his side, because Peter was afraid to hear that Jesus was going to die. But Jesus replied that 3 times before the morning, Peter would deny knowing him. It's a bit hard to turn these pages over. When Jesus and his disciples left the feast, they went into the garden to pray. Remember, we had some praying hands that told us about that part of the story. But the priests had paid Judas to take the soldiers to the garden and to arrest him. And for that one, we had some money. And that's the money, that the pieces of silver that Judas got paid to tell the priests where to arrest Jesus. So they took Jesus away. Peter followed, but when a girl asked if he knew Jesus, he said, "No!" Twice more before morning, Peter said, "No, I don't know Jesus, no!" Peter was very ashamed that he said no, that he broke his promise that he would protect Jesus, and he cried because Jesus was taken away for trial. And when they did that, remember we talked about the crown of thorns they put on his head? And the soldiers took Jesus with 2 robbers to a hill just outside Jerusalem. And as Peter and the others watched from a distance, Jesus was crucified. Remember, that was the nails and the cross. When Jesus was dead, Joseph of Arimathea was allowed to take his body to a tomb. That's like a cave. And the next morning, when Mary Magdalene, Jesus' friend, came, and she was crying because she was upset about Jesus dying, when she got there she found that the stone that was in front of that tomb, remember we talked about the stone, was moved. Because when Joseph put the body in the tomb, they didn't just put the big stone in front of it, they put soldiers there to guard it as well. And when Mary came, the stone was gone and the soldiers were gone. So Mary didn't know what to think. She ran to fetch Peter and the other disciples who also came along, and they found the tomb empty. When Mary was left alone, she went into the tomb and she saw 2 angels where Jesus' body had been. she was really quite frightened about that because she didn't know what that could mean. Then Mary heard someone speak to her, and she suddenly recognised that it was Jesus' voice. It was Jesus. He was raised back to life. She was really amazed. She went off to tell the other disciples because she was so excited. That evening, when the disciples were all together, Jesus appeared to them so that they all saw Jesus too, and they were very excited as well. Now Peter, remember how he said he broke his promise that he would look after Jesus, and he said he didn't know him? Well, after they'd seen Jesus and that he'd been alive again, Peter was fishing one morning, and he could see a man over on the shore, and the man actually had a fire like that on the sand. And this man was looking at Peter, and Peter was really upset because he'd been fishing all night and his net was empty. He hadn't caught any fish at all. But this man said to him, "Put your net on the other side of the boat." And when Peter did that, he caught lots and lots of fish. And he wondered who this man was. So they went to shore with all the fish, and there was this fire, and they realised that the stranger wasn't a stranger, it was Jesus. And so Peter and his friends were able to spend some time with Jesus again. And after they'd finished eating, Jesus told Peter to take care of his followers. And if we read that in the Bible, it says, "Take care of my sheep. Take care of one another." And so after that, there are lots of stories in the Bible about the things that Peter did to tell people about Jesus. That's all we're going to talk about today. But you might be able to find that story about Peter in the Bible. Bye for now, everybody.